like getting on the court, looking at your mate down the court, seeing their eyes and knowing that that's where a lot of the motivation comes from. There's nothing quite like it. Getting a ball, turning, throwing the ball into space. No one's there, but you know your mate's going to go and your mate's going to get it. That gives you just an added push to do that little bit better. You know, that 1%. Once you've actually finished the session that you're doing, what am I adding into the bank today? What am I banking? Because come the end of the year, how much have I banked up? You know, if you're putting in 10 more, another set at the end, you add all those things up at the end of the year, and they're all added to what? You add all those up after a series of 5 years. How much better are you than the person you're stepping on the line with? Before the whistle blows, I can look that person in the eye and go, you ain't got a chance.
Welcome to Sporting Purpose, Dream, Believe, Achieve, where we will explore the stories of remarkable people in sport. Today we have a special guest whose dedication and resilience have made her a netball legend. Joline Henry is synonymous with excellence on the netball court. With over a decade of experience, she's been a cornerstone of New Zealand's national team, the Silver Ferns, earning 91 caps. Her journey from her early days to international victories is a testament to hard work and perseverance. In this episode, we'll delve into Joline's journey, her challenges and her triumphs. Whether you're a budding athlete or simply love a good story of determination, Joline's story will inspire and motivate you. Kia ora, Joels. Welcome to Sporting Purpose, Dream, Believe, Achieve. Kei te pe, hea oi.
Kei te pe hea au, kei te pai. Engari he mea makariri. It's in winter, so I'm a little bit cold as well.
All right, well, I'll try out the lingo for you.
That's right, a little bit envious of you sitting there in Thailand.
Yeah, I know in New Zealand it's a little bit colder, but you got your little holiday in Bali last week, so I'm sure you're feeling a bit refreshed and recharged. Got the vitamin D in. So, Jules, I'll start with the same question I'm going to ask everyone who comes on this podcast, which is, what is purpose to you and how does it relate to sport?
My outlook on purpose pretty much is that it's your undercurrent of everything that you do. It's your reason why, and it sets the tone for what you're about to approach. It could be anything. It could be a goal. It could be a task. It could just be your attitude and your approach to life. So I guess it changes wherever you are in your stages of life. I guess for me at the moment, it looks like being a good housemaster, being a good mother to a young family, as well as trying to make sure that I'm growing as a person or giving myself some self-love. Because when you reach our tender age of 40, you start to, I guess, everything kind of changes. You know, you're not looking at going out and partying. You're not, you know, you're kind of looking for that rounded, what do you call it? That rounded, whole, holistic approach where things are going well with your children. You've given them some time. You're also ticking away at your own aspirations in your career. It could also be a little bit of education. You might still be playing sport or trying to hold on. Or just being active. So I guess, like I said, it's just the undercurrent that underpins everything that you do and how you approach things.
And when you were playing professionally, obviously you're retired now in 2014, I believe. But when you were playing, did you feel that sense of purpose? Could you identify that in the same way, or did it feel differently at that moment in time?
I had a very clear sense of purpose whilst I was still playing netball, at probably the expense of lots and lots of other things, because you do have to be really selfish to be at the top of your game, and you do get really narrow and tunnel vision, but you don't get far in elite level sport if you're not that. You just have to hope that you have people on the, on the contingencies or kind of in your peripherals and in your support team that can help balance you out, but also understand that everything you do impacts your ability to achieve well in your sport. So I was lucky enough to be in the team for 11 years, so that occupied a big chunk of my life, but I wouldn't change it for the world, and I'd do it all again for absolutely nothing. But loved the game, wanted to be the best I could be in that game, and absolutely frothed on the challenges that international netball presented.
It's interesting you mentioned the word achieve there, because we're going to come back to all your achievements. There's many, many of them. We'll come back to them towards the end. But I want to start at the beginning of the story. What was your first ever memory in sport? Not even necessarily netball. What was the first thing you remember?
First thing I remember was probably my first ever cross country as a 5-year-old. Now, I went to a small rural school. Even though it was in an urban setting, it was still kind of like a rural school in terms of it being really small. It went all the way from new entrance all the way up to secondary school. And I was quite large, as you can imagine. I was much larger than my other 5-year-olds. And given that our school was so small, I competed in the 7-year-old class. And I went out guns blazing. Cross country, I was leading, probably only about 500 metres in, and they had a steeple jump. Attack that steeple jump was coming first and took a big fall. Sat down there feeling sorry for myself, had a big old tummy, which means I was sitting there crying. Everyone passed me. I was devastated. Nothing was actually wrong with me. I was probably just more upset. Anyway, my grandmother, who raised me, came marching over, and she said to me, and I think you thought she was going to pick me up, give me a cuddle, and she said to me, "You better get up before I give you something to cry for."
Wise words, eh?
Wise words. And she proceeded to run the cross country with me. I had a 50-year-old grandmother run that cross country with me all the way to the end.
And knowing you, Jules, I bet you weren't letting her win either.
Right, actually, we called out some other people. So.
All right.
So I think that really just, like you say, set the tone for how I approached a lot of things in life. Never back down from a challenge. If you fall over, that's okay. That's all part of it. But you will show your character, you will show your value in those times when your back's against the wall kind of thing. So that's probably my earliest memory of sport. But netball has always been a massive passion of mine. Even if it did start out with an affiliation and a love of the tuck shop.
So talk us through the tuck shop then.
My grandmother. Hey?
So your grandmother, we've got the cross country, and then we've got the tuck shop now in netball. So how do we get from one to the other? What was the link?
Well, my grandmother played. So it was just a matter of me going on Saturday because that was what we did, So we used to go along with her, and I used to love it, like I said, because I used to be able to go to the tuck shop and get a pie and a Coke, and that was a real treat.
Everything in moderation, eh?
Everything in moderation.
And, when did you realize you had like a real gift for it? When did you start to think, wow, this is something I can be next level at?
I would have been 5. I would have been 5 when I used to sit and watch netball with my grandmother, international netball, and we were watching the game, and my mum loves Tōmaru came across the screen. I think she did this amazing intercept, and then New Zealand turned over the ball, and then she hip checked someone on her way to go and get in another intercept, and all I could think was, "Whew, I like that. I want to be that." I just thought she was amazing. Even the way she walked, Zola, had this amazing presence, and it just exuded this mother, and I was like, I love that.
So yeah, you saw something, you were inspired by it. Obviously, you had your grandmother's influence. Was there a particular game or moment where you thought, yourself, you obviously visualized it there when you were watching, that TV at that moment. When did you start to see it in yourself that you actually had the talent?
It probably wasn't until a long way down the track. I didn't even think about making representative sides or making a New Zealand team. I actually just loved the game. So after that, it was just a matter of my nan gave me a ball, and it was a highlighted pink and black ball, and that ball went everywhere with me. It came to school, it came home, it came next door with me to my nan and Kuddles next door, who had a rickety old concrete post that they put in the backyard for me, which had been in the family for it must have been about 20 years old by the time I got it. And every day, that's all I did. Played with it, had fun with it. It came everywhere with me, that ball. It probably, don't think it was threadbare pretty much by the time I got another one. But played through the age groups, absolutely loved it. Didn't think about representative stuff at all, just played for the love of the game.
I think that's how it starts out for a lot of people, right? And it's interesting you mentioned about that ball, because I remember one time you came to Harrow and you had just received an order of your own personalized netballs. Were they also the same color? Were they designed to be the same as the original ball you had?
No, but they did have the same colors in them. My one had a little bit of pink, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of green. Mine was actually, I guess it was a reflection of me, and that I'm a little bit of everything, kind of like a chameleon.
The Rainbow Nation.
That's right. That's right. I like to bring a little bit of something. You can learn from everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. There's always something to learn, and I think that's probably how I try to approach life now. Is that you can take a little bit of stuff from your netball experience. You can take a little bit of stuff from our international teaching careers, whether that be in Hong Kong, Thailand, back here in New Zealand, and take the bits that you love the most to form what you think epitomizes you.
I want to jump back to your dreams again, and you mentioned it didn't come till much later. You said when you really started believing that you were just playing for the love of the game. You weren't really thinking about it. At what age, if you tried to pinpoint, at what age do you think it happened? And at that point, did you dream big? Did you visualize getting 91 caps for your country? Did you ever think it was possible for you to achieve that, or did it just the dream slowly evolve as you went along?
It did slowly evolve. I made it quite clear early on at that 5 that I wanted to be a silver fern. I just kind of hadn't connected anything yet. It wasn't probably until I made the talent identification score as a 14-year-old, after having played in the Whanganui, junior team, after having played at premier level with the ladies in their league, I actually thought, I'm pretty scarxy at this game, and kind of relished the opportunity for anyone to speak to me. I was like, I'm all over this. Bring it. What you got? Let's test me out, kind of thing. And I was found wanting. That's how you grew. And I said that whatever I was found wanting in, I was never found wanting again. I made sure of that. But by the time I was 15, I was in the New Zealand Talent ID squad, which was the New Zealand Under 21 squad. And at 16, I was dropped from that squad and started playing in what you would, I guess, best describe as the Super League, or the Super Rugby. So the Super Rugby team of netball, I started when I was at 15 playing here, and I was dropped from that team, and I thought, you know what, flake her, she don't know what she's talking about. Come on, that one. So I just went away and kept loving the game and kept playing it, and sure enough, 6 months later, they reselected me, and I was picked up in the Ferns the year later. So quite progressive, I guess, having come through their talent identification squad. But again, it comes back to that cross-country run. Like, no one could tell me I wasn't going to not achieve. No one could tell me I wasn't good at the game or I couldn't get to the finish line.
That inner resilience and determination. So credit to Granny Joles. Well played.
Man.
She did her job well, eh?
She did.
I'll jump to kind of the second section, which is kind of believing. You've already touched on quite a number of parts of this already. You mentioned learning from your mistakes. You talked about never backing down, showing character. What role does self-belief play in sports for you?
It's huge, eh? Like, if you're doubting yourself, everyone around you is gonna have that as well. When you are stepping out there, whether it be on the pitch, on the field, on the court, whatever it is, when you see your opponent and you have a look at them, if they are oozing confidence, even bordering on arrogance, it's got to come from somewhere. So you make the assumption, this is going to be quite a goodie, because they're going to bring something. They're skilled. They must be. They've obviously had lots of success. They've had lots of victory, or they've had lots of achievements in order to have that kind of swagger. So I think you have to have a certain amount of self-belief in yourself, even if you are unsure of yourself. Otherwise, that self-doubt can manifest in lots of different ways, whether it be the opposition looking at you, whether it be you trying something and being doubtful, because in elite level sport, we know that the split of a second can cost you a match.
Like you said, emotion is a big part of it, right? How we perceive ourselves, how we perceive others. And obviously, even the greats, someone who's achieved so much for their country, you obviously had doubts along the way and big obstacles to achieve. What was the biggest moment of self-doubt you had, or any particularly big obstacles or challenges? And then how did you overcome that to get to where you got to?
I had a few, if I'm being completely honest, Ola. Like, I come across as a fairly confident person, as a fairly resilient person, but you don't get to be like that unless you've actually had a little bit of challenge, and you've had to work really, really hard. Had that suffered that kind of been dropped from the team. I played with women a lot, so I was always challenged for positions, whether that be you didn't start, and if I didn't start, I'd make it known that the next time that I got to play, or I got an opportunity, whether it be in a match or training, that I'd show them that I should have been playing, because actually I would have won it. I was dropped after being selected. So I was selected for the Ferns in 2004, and then I was dropped at the end of 2005.
The Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, right?
Yeah. So I was dropped then, and I sat at home for the day, and I, cried and doubted myself and thought the whole world was falling down around me, really, because you live and breathe the sport, the game, and that's your job. And when you can't, or you're perceived to not be able to do it, it does really hurt. But I had resolved myself after having my little, moment. I was going to be stronger. I was going to be fitter. I was going to be faster. And I was going to bring something that no one else did.
You used the term "show them" earlier.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good one. Like, you've taken it on board, you absorbed the shock, and you're kind of releasing it back at them. So you're channeling the anger and the frustration, and you wanted to prove a point.
I sure did. Zolan. Those things mixed with heaps and heaps of hard work and lots of good people around me. Was able to achieve that.
Yeah, so that was an interesting one. You mentioned people around you. So obviously your grandmother, we talked about her being of an influence. Who else helped you through those difficult times?
I had heaps and heaps, actually. I had some really neat friends in and around my teens who were great mentors, whether that would be the way that they played on the court or the way that they approached home life, having great balance on and off the court, and just showed me how I wanted to be. I had some amazing coaches. I had Joline Henry, who kind of really just thinks outside the box. And when you get given a team talk that consists of one sentence, a permanent even knows how sweet it is. Like, 20 years on, Zola, I'm still baffled by it. Like, I still
say it again for me.
A kumara never knows how sweet it is.
Okay. Give me a breakdown. What does that mean?
So a kumara is a sweet potato here in New Zealand. It's a native sweet potato. Still don't get it to this day, and I keep coming up with different ways to interpret that. Does she mean that, we haven't quite reached our potential? Does it mean that we are too humble? And I just keep asking myself all these questions whenever I hear that proverb. But how about that as a coach, to have an influence over a player 20 years later down the track?
Still thinking about it, still pondering.
Thinking about that. But that was her brain. Like, she was just big picture stuff. She was amazing.
That's legacy right there, isn't it?
Legacy right there. So there was her. I was lucky enough to have Robin Broughton, who was an older lady, but had been a PE teacher for the best part of 50 years, down in Invercargill in Southland. Bless her heart, she could look at you without even speaking to you or without even raising her voice, and you knew you had to pull finger. So I was just really lucky to have people who backed me, who believed in me, supported me. My grandmother, I know she used to go out so that I would have the right gear, I could have the right shoes, I would have the opportunities that matched the hard work and the little bit of talent I probably had. But you're super fortunate to have all of that.
Yeah, sounds like you've got, an amazing support network, and obviously it was one of the keys behind your success. So I think if any of them are listening, I hope they hear this and they know how important they were to you and how much you appreciated it.
Yeah, well, I'd say a big thank you to. I can't forget Layla.
We've got to give him a nod. The big man, yeah.
My husband.
I read somewhere, I was reading an article about you before this, and it said that there was some sort of difficult moment, and people were trying to get a hold of you, and he just turned off your phone. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do actually. And I was being named, and they used to name, if you were a new cat, they used to name the team the night before. So you'd always be a little bit itchy, a little bit edgy, and I went to bed, I couldn't cope with the idea that, I had to kind of wait, second guess, it's out of your control. So I was just like, I'm just going to go to bed, leave to bed. The coach was battling for me. She couldn't reach me. So yeah, it was, that's it. But it was a pretty awesome call, I have to say, those are. Pretty amazing call. And I thought she was taking the mickey a little bit. I was like, are you kidding? Like,
was this your first call up for the Silver Ferns?
Call up.
So that's a lovely link, actually. I didn't intend it, but that's a lovely link into the last section, which is achieve it. Because is that the moment where you first thought, here, I've made it, I'm in? Or was it long before that?
No, it was then, because there is a massive step. Like, there's one thing to be in the New Zealand under-21s, another step to be in the New Zealand squad, but to actually be able to don the bib and sing your national anthem and represent everyone that you care about, that the realization or the start of the dream, massive moment. Like, when she called me and said, I'd like to welcome you as the newest member of the Silver Ferns, I was absolutely speechless. And now I'm not often speechless unless I'm really hungry.
How did you react? Did you just frozen, or did you jump up and down, or what did you do?
I mean, admittedly, I was in bed, and I was a hot mess kind of thing. And then all I could think about was a press conference the next day. So I was like, hey, all right, Ruth, I've got to go because I've got to go and do my hair. So bounced up and I had to go and do what if he got embarrassing.
Hey, you got to look the part, eh? You got to look the part.
Exactly. But it was, a start of a journey, and that was probably the big turning point for me, was actually getting that first call to say, you're going to be standing on that transverse line.
And you went on to achieve so many things, for the Silver Ferns. When you look back on it, what were the best moments? What would you define as the successful moments within that career?
Some of my biggest moments are probably the ones that no one ever saw. And those are moments, probably the social moments really that meant the most. Living and breathing your best life with your best friends. Probably like some of the stories, and as into us, those into it kind of thing. So we won't delve too much into those, but that's something that I have with me for life, and that I really treasure from there. But on the court, the biggest moment for me would probably be the gold medal match against Australia in Delhi, which went to double overtime. And I don't think no one's ever surpassed the end of that game. It just seemed to go on and on and on.
Just a real battle.
Yeah, it was a real battle, but there was just so much leading into it. Like, because you spend 4 years in a campaign, and that one just seemed even longer because of the nature of Commonwealth Games in Delhi that year. Like, you didn't know if you were going to go, you didn't know if Team New Zealand were going to let you go. And then it was Netball New Zealand going and doing their own trials, and then we all had to sign waivers to say that we were all happy going, and that we knew the risks in going because there had been all those threats. So it was, and you got on a bus and you had armed vehicles everywhere, you had armed them under us, and there was just lots and lots of tension in and around attending those games. There was the food, having Delhi belly, all those.
I've never been, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
You had all those sorts of things going on, and to actually come away from that on the right side of the ledger against such a fierce foe, and for it to be such an awesome match. Fucking awesome. Mind my French. It inspired me for years. And that's probably why it was moments like that probably held me in the game for a lot longer than I would have otherwise. Surreal.
I find it really interesting that, someone who's won the Commonwealth Games and the World Netball Series, when I've asked about success, the first thing you mentioned was the small moments, the social moments within the team. Because when I was playing, I never really understood it. I heard people say it when I was playing. It's all about the journey and not the destination. But I feel like I haven't really understood that till later on in life. And yeah, it's kind of linked to what you said, right? It's about that journey, the moments with your team, the meals, the training, the funny things that happen. Even with the top level athletes before the success of winning trophies, because it lasts longer in the memory than the medal will.
I still got the medal, so don't worry about it.
As long as you haven't melted them down. Okay. Anyway. What role do you think teamwork and support systems play in achieving your sports goals? You talked a lot about team and friendships and having that support in the self-belief aspect, but in terms of achieving?
Well, I guess I don't know if it would be the same in individual sports, but I guess that you create your team around you, you have a coach, you'd have a playing partner or a training partner that will come along with you, you'd have your physio, you'd have your trainer, all those sorts of things. But I guess in our team sports, it's what you live for, right? Like getting on the court, looking at your mate down the court, seeing their eyes and knowing that that's where a lot of the motivation comes from. There's nothing quite like it. Getting a ball, turning, throwing the ball into space. No one's there, but your mate's going to go and your mate's going to get it. But that gives you just an added push to do that little bit better. That 1%. Once you've actually finished the session that you're doing, what am I adding into the bank today? What am I banking? Because come the end of the year, how much have I banked up? If you're putting in 10 more, another set, at the end, you add all those things up at the end of the year, and they're all added to what? You add all those up after a series of 5 years, how much better are you than the person you're stepping on the line with? Before the whistle blows, I can look that person in the eye and go, ain't got a chance.
That's it. The self-belief linked to the determination. So you achieved an incredible amount in, a very long career. We had, was it 11 years playing for the Silver Ferns? You won, as we already mentioned, numerous trophies. How did you find it when you left the sport, when you retired? How did you still love watching the game? Did you still play, or did your mindset just completely change and you wanted to move on to a new chapter?
It's a tough one, because athletes for being on the top of the game, and I think that there's a lot more research out now. You struggle in transition. You struggle transitioning from that everyday life and getting that reinforcement, that positive reinforcement from your environment, whether that be playing a game well, whether that be doing a skill well, having a PB in training, meeting with your mates, all that sort of stuff that you miss heaps. So I was really aware of that. As a psychologist by trade, I was kind of had all of those conversations with my sports psychologist probably in the last 5 years of my career, and had lots of support from the New Zealand Players Association, the Netball Players Association, who offered lots of opportunities in and outside the game, and kind of looking at my transition period and how they could help manage that. But I guess ultimately it's about making sure that you have goals and you have things to work towards there, so you can emulate some of the things that you had during your career. Because like you say, I was probably playing for too long, and you make me sound really old.
I know.
But it helped.
Young 40.
Yeah, it allowed me to put my energy and my passions into other things that gave me that reinforcement. But you do miss the sport, you miss the game, I miss the camaraderie. But I was really adamant in my stubborn approach, as with most things, that if I watched the game too much, or that if I had stayed in New Zealand, that I would be gently swayed perhaps to dip my toes in again. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be challenged in a different arena of my life. and I was lucky enough to find them in Hong Kong.
So yeah, obviously, there's so many directions I want to go with this, but you firstly, let's go back because you mentioned your degree in psychology. You must have had an array of options because if I'm not mistaken, I think you have 4 degrees. Is that right?
Well, it's three.
Three degrees.
Three. You got 2 degrees, a master's, and then I did my graduate study through the University of Sunderland when I was at Harrow.
And that's obviously for the anyone watching. You know, that's where we first met through Harrow. You were brought in to help out with the netball program, and also to be a PE teacher, where you trained and you did that qualification. And you had, I think it was Ben helped you through that, right? They guided you through that process.
Ben Furness, what a legend! Just saying, right?
I hope he's watching. I hope he heard that.
I
He'll
hope
love
he's
it.
watching too.
Yeah, I know he's fist pumping somewhere.
As he should be.
Did you? So when you were having those conversations with the New Zealand psychologist towards the end, did you narrow down the focus, or did you just think, I get to the finish line, and then you figured out, okay, education, that's where I want to go? Or did you already know it was education?
No, it wasn't education at all, actually, Zola. It wasn't education until I came to Hong Kong and was inspired by the amazing people around me, yourself included. And I know that might sound a little bit, whatever, a little bit cliche, but, to have the likes, we were really lucky to have DT, to have Danny Thompson as a director of sport, who had this vision of having the best sports department or the best sports provision in Asia. We had people from Ireland. We had people from Scotland at the top of their game, footballers, netballers, basketballers from the US, rugby players from New Zealand. So I just felt really spoiled and really inspired, and I wanted to be a part of it. So that's what took me to education. So it was you, butters.
We tricked you. We lured you in.
Yeah, but prior to that, I guess the things that they take you through are things building awareness. So what was my leadership style? How did I affect people around me? I did things like I did yoga teacher training. I did a raft of things, to tell you the truth. So all of that High Performance Sport New Zealand funded and supported me through. But yeah, I still wasn't clear. When I went to Hong Kong, and I think that's when I was lucky enough to have kind of had the epiphany that actually I'm going to give this a jam. I think this could be pretty choice.
Didn't work out too bad, eh? And then you did. We did several years in Hong Kong at Harrow, and then decision was made to go back to be closer to family in New Zealand. And now we're at Bishop's house in Whanganui. I hope I've said it right.
I'm back on the old stomping ground.
And how do you find this chapter at home? Do you find it different to Hong Kong? Different challenges? I guess what does the future hold for you now?
I guess all of the above, really. Socially, I feel like I'm reversing. It's so slow. Probably timely then that we had our second child, so it means that I'm at home a lot. But loving the fresh air, not too fond of how cold it gets in winter. But really just relishing being surrounded by family, being back on in a community that has given me so much. So I've got lots of opportunity to be able to give back. I actually went to this school growing up in year 12 and 13. So yeah, I just feel like it's wholesome, like it kind of warms me inside to be able to spend time here. I'm not a PE teacher here at the moment. I'm a language teacher. So I'm teaching Te Reo Māori, and I'm actually loving being in the classroom. And I never thought I'd say that as a BEd in the doctor mention, but I have
That's
to
because
say
you're not out in the cold. You're just happy to get indoors, eh?
Yeah, there's no 45-degree astro here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me at the moment. Life is slow. It's purposeful. Taking in the time. Just, I guess, really grounding myself and trying to ground our family before the next adventure.
If you could give one piece of advice to young athletes listening, or even to yourself going back to the start of the journey, what would you say to them?
Lots and lots comes to mind, but probably the most salient thing is don't be afraid to be yourself in whatever context that you do, because everyone's talented, everyone can work hard, but no one else is you. And being who I was actually what made me special in the game. It allowed me to kind of blaze my own path. And earlier on in my career, I was quite like waka about it. I was quite shy about it, and tried to, I guess, just hold it down a little. Be yourself, because that's what people will remember you by.
That's amazing, Jules. Thanks for telling us all about your career, and I feel like we got a nice from the start all the way through. We had a great a great story of what you went through, some of your dreams, your goals, and now the new chapter is obviously very exciting with T&M and Leif and back home. So I hope it all works out for your school. It's great that I saw some of the school values, I think it's 5 pillars you've got, and sporting achievement was one of those. So it's great to see that school with such high emphasis on sport, and hopefully it works out for you, and you can be the next generation of netball superstars as well.
You get that. I'll make sure it works all out.
To finish with today, I was hoping we could do a little quick fire round. So
yes.
try not to overthink it. Try not to sit on the fence. You got to go for it. Favorite pre-game meal?
Peanut butter and jam with banana on toast.
The worst nickname you ever had?
Okay.
3 words to describe your playing style.
Assertive, fiery, and aesthetic.
Best position, wing defense or center?
Wing.
Toughest opponent you've ever faced and why?
Jarrell McMahon. She was just tenacious, fierce, skillful, all of the above.
Best teammate you've ever had?
Oh, you're going to get me into trouble.
They're all great. just one that stands out.
Probably Casey May.
Oh, Maria's going to be fuming, but I'm sure she'll forgive you.
Socially, yes, she is my bestest.
Best coach you've ever had?
Best coach. Robin Milton.
Pre-game ritual you always followed?
It's pretty long. Okay, morning of, go to the venue, have a bit of a stomp around, go through some skill work, get home, have a sleep, wake up, pre-game meal, quietly kind of go about showering, get my clothes out, put them all on in a certain way, and then I'm ready.
What was a certain way? Where did you start? Top to bottom, bottom to top?
A mixture. Unders, dress, sock, pants, and then t-shirt on last.
All right. Worst injury you ever had?
Worst injury I ever had? Broken ankle.
3 best New Zealand slang phrases.
Holy hicka. Sure. And humble.
Oh, Reese, if you're listening, you need to trademark those before she gets onto them. One skill you wish you had mastered earlier in your career?
Balance.
Favorite sports movie?
Blindside.
Oh, that's a good one. Your second best sport after netball?
Basketball.
Got the height, I guess. Yeah, naturally follows. Most important lesson you've learned from playing netball?
Not to take a step back.
Which is harder, being a mom and a wife or a pro athlete?
Mum and a wife.
Thank you for listening to Dream, Believe, Achieve. I hope you took something away from today's podcast that will help you in whatever is going on in your life right now. If you have a dream in sport or want to help someone else follow their dream, then please click the link below to visit Sporting Dreams to apply or donate. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. Take care.